Hey gamers, welcome to a review of Ready Player Uno. I thought my Wario hat would be appropriate for the occasion. Does this even fit? It's a little tight on me, to be honest. I bought that like a year ago and I've never worn it before. So, yeah, I haven't really used it to its full potential yet. It's pretty good. Wow, I'm a big Wario and Waluigi fan, as you can see. Anyway, I thought that would be fitting because this is a video game movie, and a pretty good video game. I mean, yeah, a pretty good video game movie. It had some pretty big flaws. I've heard everything about the... I know it's based on a book. I've heard everything about the book from, it's amazing, one of the best books ever, go read it, to, the book is bad. The book is really, really bad. So, I mean, honestly, I've heard similar reception to the movie. It seems like very much a hit or miss thing. I think the movie does a lot of stuff well. It also does a lot of stuff really badly. That might be the book's influence, or maybe that's the movie's influence and the good stuff is from the book. I don't know. Honestly, there was a lot of stuff in the movie where I'm like, how was that in a book? Like, that just wouldn't work in a book. Whereas usually, you know, when you go to see a movie based on a book, it's like, well, here was a thing in the book that there's no way it can work in the movie. This kind of seems like the other way around. Because there's, like the thing that really works in this movie is, like, a lot of these, like, really cool action sequences. Like, very early on in the movie, there's a race that they have to do to get... I suppose I should talk about the plot. It's very basic. It's all... The outline for the plot is all conveyed through exposition in the first 5 minutes of the movie. They don't try to hide it. It's literally like voiceover narration from the main character. Basically, it's the future. The world sucks. There's this video game, VR, Sword Art Online style video game world called the Oasis that people go into with VR. They hang out in there, and they get to, like, it's like an escape from the sucky real world. And I do like, they convey this idea of this video game world very well. Like the Oasis feels like a very alive world. In contrast, the real world is barely explored and does not feel like a real world at all. It doesn't help that all the real world events in the movie take place in the same, like, city. So everything is so, like, you don't know what the real world is like outside of the town of Columbus, Ohio. But, like, the Oasis is a very fleshed out and kind of interesting world. You've got this sort of meta in the Oasis where everybody is trying to, or not everybody, but, like, people are trying to get these 3 keys because the creator of the Oasis basically was like, I left these 3 keys and they get to an Easter egg. And I hid this Easter egg in the game, and the first person to find the Easter egg gets full ownership of the Oasis and you know, like, all my money or something like that. And so naturally you've got this one group that is a group of, like, you know, kind of generic, corrupt, like, this corrupt business that is trying to find these keys so they can own the Oasis and, you know, market it to hell. There's a funny bit in the movie where the boss of the evil business is, like, has got this business plan pulled up, and he's, like, talking about what he wants to do with the Oasis when they get it. He's like, we've calculated that we can fill the screen that people are looking at with 80% of ads before they'll experience seizures. And he, like, clicks a button, and there's, like, a screen with the Oasis, and it all, like, lights up with all these different ads. And it's so, like that gives you an idea. It's kind of like EA or, you know, some current just want to use video games to make copious amounts of money. There's also that same bad guy in a different part of the movie mentions packaging the Oasis with, like, silver and gold and, like, deluxe packaging, and I'm like, that's also something they do. Video game companies do that nobody likes in video games. So I actually thought the bad guys were surprisingly not one note. Like, I mean, they were the generic businessmen, but like they weren't quite Iron Man movies level of boring generic businessman villain. Like, the main bad guy was a little more interesting than that. But I'm getting off topic. That's basically the outline of the plot. There's them, and then there's this group of other people. I don't remember what they're called, but they're trying to find. I mean, obviously there's the protagonist, but there's also just sort of like a community of people that are trying to unlock the first key, which apparently hadn't been found in the 5 years since it was announced. Which that I found hard to believe. That was probably a book thing that they just brought over, but it would have been more plausible if it had been like a year. Because it was like 5 years, most people had already given up on hunting down the keys, and then the main character just finds this rather obvious clue, and just finds the first key, and then suddenly everybody's looking for more. But to get the first key, you gotta go through this race thing, and like race car thing, and that sequence of the movie was the first moment where I'm like, wow, this movie has like really cool visual stuff going on. And that continues throughout the movie. Like, one of the keys is like this Shining reference thing, like reference to the sequence that references The Shining really creatively. And then there's just a lot of really fun, creative visual stuff going on in the movie. With the Oasis, and even with the outside world. Like, I mean, you've seen it in the trailers. There's like the stacks of like almost these like mobile homes, allowing areas to be really densely populated. That's cool looking. They do some funny stuff. I was surprised by how funny the movie was. They do some funny stuff with the whole VR thing, where they'll like have somebody doing something in the game, and then they'll cut to them in the real world, and they're flinging their arms around like an idiot. You know, that kind of easy. It's an easy joke, but it's a joke that's funny and it works. And they do quite a bit of funny stuff with that. And that, in general, the reality to VR stuff is really well handled. Like, there's a subplot that essentially the bad guys find out the real world identity of the main character, and so they're hunting him down throughout the movie. The bad guy has one of his subordinates hunting them down, and so that provides a nice subplot that, you know, builds tension. It's nice because they have these guys chasing. Wade is the name of the main character. He's being chased down in the real world, which provides a nice sense of tension, because, you know, in the video game world, he's, you know, a video game character. There's not really real world consequences to his battle with this corporation, but having them also hunting him down in the real world, where he basically just has to run away from them, like he can't face them head on, is a really creative way. I mean, I guess it's not. I don't know if I'd say it's really creative, but like, it's a good way of building tension while also still allowing the plot inside the VR world to move forward. And the pacing of the movie is generally very good. Like, it doesn't slow down at any point, and it doesn't like move too fast at any point. I'd say and so that's like, the pacing is good, the world is really good. You know, the basic setup is really good. Something that the humor is really good. Something that was surprisingly interesting to me, that I didn't expect to be so interested in, was the character of Halliday, the man who created the Oasis, because he's basically this like giant. He's this giant nerd. He's just a gamer. He loves video games. He loves nerd culture. And because everyone is trying to find this Easter egg, there's this huge database of information on him, and all the characters have researched him and studied him, and they know all these like obscure facts about his life. And it's this kind of funny sort of culture that's built around him because he created the Oasis. And like, his story is really interesting. You get snippets of his story through, not flashbacks, but like in this database there are little movies that like show his life. And what you get of his story is interesting enough that I'd watch a movie just based around his creation of the Oasis, his rise to power, his falling out with his business partner, that you see during flashbacks where he kind of has a falling out with his business partner, fires him from the company, what have you. And, that's a story I would want to see. Honestly, a story I would almost rather see than the one that is actually happening in the movie. This Halliday character is far more interesting than any of the actual living, breathing characters in the movie. And that gets to the movie's biggest flaw. The characters are bad. They're really bad. I mean, some of them are likable enough. Honestly, most of them are likable enough. The biggest problem is the protagonist. Wade Watts is an absolute dumbass. And, a completely unrelatable and stupid character. He meets this girl, and, he just falls in love with her right away. Right? What stupid main characters do. But then he goes to, investigate for the second key with her, and he goes to this party. Spoilers, minor spoilers, by the way, but I gotta complain about this character. It's hard to explain why this character... I mean, alright, I guess I can explain why. The reason the character is bad is he's just incredibly bland and generic. It's kind of like, a video game protagonist, where you're supposed to relate to the character's bland on purpose so you can relate to them, and I feel like that's probably what the book was going for, too. And that kind of can work in a book. You just make him a narrator, and so he's kind of the audience surrogate, but it doesn't work in a movie. So what you've got in this movie is just this main character that is the most blank slate, boring protagonist that you could ever have. And I knew he was going to be boring from the trailers. He pretty much is exactly what you expect. But, what I didn't expect was how remarkably stupid he is. The whole reason, and here's where I get into the spoilers, the whole reason that they find out his identity in the real world is that when he's at this dance club with the girl in the Oasis, he, like an idiot, is like, oh my gosh, I love you. This is their, third time meeting, I think? He's like, I love you so much. My real name is Wade. And and the bad guys are listening in on him, so they find out who he is, and then they're hunting him down for the rest of the movie. And he's an idiot. And it gets worse, even, because first they try to hunt him down by blowing up his house, but he's not at his house, he's in his secret little gamer cave. It's literally like a cave over, a pile of wrecked cars. And so they blow up his house, and his aunt dies, and you get, one shot of him sadly walking away from his house, and then this guy shows up and grabs him. And then that guy ends up being somebody who's working with the girl he knows in the video game, but in real life. So he meets her, and they just fall in love, right away, of course. And then he never mentions his dead aunt again. He never mentions her at all. He literally does not care. He cares for, half a minute, and then he gets grabbed, and then it's forgotten. Literally forgotten. Never addressed again. Never addressed that his aunt died because he was stupid and did a stupid thing. It's never even addressed that what he did was stupid again. Which is really, really bad. They could have made that a moment to actually give some emotionality to this main character, give him some pathos, but instead it's just, left in the wayside because he's horny, and of course, the girl that he meets in the video game just happens to be a girl in real life. And I will say, the movie does address that elephant in the room, that she could be, a 300-pound man in the real world. Rather cleverly, actually, because one of his friends is the first one to suggest it, and then when he meets that friend in real life, she's a girl, but in the video game, it's a dude. So that was actually good. I like his group of gamer friends that he hangs out with. They felt really like real, actual people. Honestly, I like all of the characters just fine, except the protagonist, who's, bland and stupid and just unlikable. If he was bland, I could ignore it, but he's bland and stupid. So, he's by far the worst part of the movie. But there are some good characters, like Halliday, as I mentioned, and there's also a really funny character that I don't think was in any of the trailers that was just a wonderful surprise to me, is there's this bounty hunter dude. He's actually the one who's listening in when Wade reveals his real name. This bounty hunter dude in the video game that is hired by the evil businessman to like hunt down this Wade, who's his video game name's Percival. He's hired to hunt down this Percival person and figure out stuff about him, maybe get him killed. And it's like the most badass dude in the game. He's got this like really over the top extreme avatar where his whole body is literally like this skull that just has these 3 holes in it where the mouth and the eye are. But then the bad guy goes and talks to him, and it does this wonderful little comedic bit where this like goofy music starts playing, and then it's revealed that this big badass bounty hunter guy is essentially like a bro gamer stoner dude. The type of person that in our world would be the guy who sits in his room all day playing Call of Duty, ranking up and spending ludicrous amounts of money on loot boxes in games while yelling at people online because they're bad at the game. Like he's one of those like idiot gamers that stays inside all day, but because of the society, the economics built around this oasis, him being a badass in the game means that he's essentially an actual badass. But it's just funny because like he's played by T.J. Miller, you know, the guy, the basic guy who plays stoners. I thought it was Jonah Hill until I saw the credits, which made me realize that T.J. Miller is essentially just a not fat Jonah Hill. But like that is a wonderful bit that works. Like it plays this cheesy music and then he starts talking to the bad guy and it's like, oh, okay, you're an idiot, but you're also really good at this game. So like it's plausible that you're like this bounty hunter that he talks to, but it's like the business guy is constantly having to get him back on track because he starts talking about random stupid crap. He's just such a funny character. Like every scene he's in is like really, really well written and humorous. I wish the rest of the movie was that well written because like pretty much everything else, like the writing is pretty bad. Like I've mentioned the main character, but like even the other characters are written pretty poorly, but like all the scenes with this guy are written really, really well, and I don't know who was writing that, but I wish they were doing the whole movie, because like it was just a really funny character. Like I was laughing out loud really hard in the theater whenever he came on screen. And you never see his real world counterpart, which is smart. I mean, they could have done an easy joke with his real-world counterpart being a 300-pound fat dude or something, but that's, like, too predictable. It's better that you never see his real world. You only see this persona that he has in the video game. And that's probably my favorite part of the movie. I'm gushing about that part right now, because so much of the rest of it is just badly written. There are a couple clever bits. I'm not going to talk about it that much more, but basically the characters are pretty badly written. The plot is kind of also badly written, but the visuals and some of the humor and like the movie has some heart to it that I like, and that's that Spielberg touch, because it is a Spielberg movie. And so overall, I have to say I enjoyed the movie a lot. As far as the writing goes, it was pretty obvious that there were some writers. That there was clearly at least one writer on the staff that actually knew their crap about, that actually knew their stuff about video games and video game culture and internet culture. And there were also clearly several that were like clueless, out of touch old people writing this movie. And you know, it's just kind of, you see, it's like, so it's not perfect, but it's better than I expected, from a concept that, you know, had the potential to just be like a cringe fest, like a complete like. And there are a couple scenes that are cringy. The main character, his aunt, is dating this abusive guy, and at one point, the abusive guy gets mad at the kid because the kid gave him this tech to do this VR fighting gambling ring thing, and then the guy lost like an idiot and lost all their money. And so the kid's like, well, maybe you wouldn't have lost if you weren't such a noob. The main character is like, maybe you wouldn't have lost if you weren't such a noob. He actually says, like, noob. And then the other guy punches him. And, like, it's played as a serious scene where it's like, okay, yeah, this guy's abusive and he's beating him up, but I couldn't take it seriously because the catalyst to him being punched was the main character calling this guy a noob. So I was just, like, I was laughing, even though it wasn't supposed to be funny. But that was actually, like, a pleasant thing, is that most of the bad stuff in the movie, like that kind of stuff, I could laugh at. Like, I was able to laugh at the movie when it was being dumb, but also laugh with the movie when it was actually trying to be funny on purpose, and also react in awe in some of the scenes where it was really trying to show off some cool visuals or some cool ideas. So overall, I'd say it's a movie where there's, like, it's a very mixed bag, and I don't know, whether or not you'd want to go see it, it's really up to you, but, like, it's not a complete dumpster fire. It's not an amazing film. I don't know if I'd watch it again. I probably wouldn't, but I'm glad I saw it once. I'm glad I saw it Ready Player Once. Arrivederci.